The next feature to do with visibility that I want to look at is styles. If you don't know already, styles are a very powerful and often overlooked aspect of SketchUp. They essentially control how the physical geometry of your model looks and are infinitely customizable. Styles are where you control line weights in your drawings, as well as materials, colors, and any background imagery. You can only assign one style per scene, and for any style you essentially get 3 line weights. But we'll look at that in more detail later. If we open the Styles tray by going to Window, Styles, you'll see this thing pop up. And if we go to this drop down here, you can see that SketchUp comes with a variety of weird and wonderful different styles that change how your project looks. If we go to Default Styles, you'll see a number of basic different styles. If we start with the construction documentation style here, which we've got selected, if we right click, add to model. Then if we go to our little home here, it shows us all the styles that we've got in our model. Here we have our construction documentation style. So let's right click, make a copy. Okay, and let's rename that style working style. And as before, click on the arrows to update. Now let's edit this new style. If we click on edit, let's start with edge settings on the far left. Here we can have edges on and off, which is basically the lines in the drawing on or off. We can show back edges, which tends to be much too complex. We can have profiles, which is effectively a thicker line around the model. You can see there. We don't need that for our working style, so let's turn that off. We can have depth Q, which again thickens the lines up that are closer to you. We don't need that either. We can have extensions, which tend to run the lines past, giving it a kind of hand-drawn style. Again, we don't need that for this. And we can also have endpoints or jitter, which the jitter gives it a kind of sketchy effect. We don't need any of those things just for our basic working style. This is the style for our working scene. So let's leave it with that, update the style, and go to face settings. Here we can select how our faces look in the model. We can have a kind of wireframe, hidden line, just colors, shaded with textures, or no textures, or X-ray. For this working style, let's stick with textures without the X-ray, so that we can see the materials that we're working with. If you've got a slower or less powerful graphics card on your machine, you might want to use just the shaded style to speed things up. Let's update the scene. Okay, for background, we can have a color if we want, or we can have sky on or off, or the ground on or off. Let's keep the background just white for now and update the style. The next one to look at is watermarks. This allows us to put a picture in the background or in front of our view of the model, but for this, again, we don't need to look at that. And finally, we've got model settings. In here, we can choose whether we see section planes or not. I always make sure that section plane visibility is turned off when creating styles, as this just gets in the way of your drawing work. You can easily toggle it on and off manually when you're working in the model using these tools later. Also, we've got section cuts, whether we see section cuts or not using this style, and whether we see section fill or not using this style. For this working style, we want section cuts on and section fill on, but section planes off. update the style to save the changes. Okay, we just need to create 2 more styles for our drawings. Remember, every time you make a change to a style, you need to update the style if you want to keep the changes. If we go back to our styles again, save a copy of our working style, and this time let's call it raster, and update the style to save the changes. This is the style that we want to use for all the scenes where you want to display color, textures, and hatching in layout, such as elevations. As before, let's edit this new style by clicking on the Edit tab. Okay, we don't have to change too much. Under Edge Settings, keep this as the same as the working style, but let's turn Profiles on. Under Face Settings, we want to keep it shaded with textures. And finally, under Model Settings, set Section Line Width to 1 and turn off Guides, and update to save the changes. One more style to go. Let's do another copy, and this time call it Vector. This is the style we're going to use for our line work drawings, like our plans and sections. And for this, we want to have thick edges to emphasize the cut planes in the model. As before, let's edit this style. We go to Edit. Under Edge Settings, this time we want to have Profiles ticked. Give them a thickness of 1 for now. Under Face Settings, change this to a hidden line style. So we just want black and white, like this. Update the style. Finally, under Model Settings, we can set the Section Fill color. And I like to set Section Fill as a solid black color, but you can choose whatever color you want. Also, let's set Section Line Width to 2. So I feel that 3 is a bit thick, generally. Again, as a personal preference. And let's update the style to save the changes. Once you've created all 3 styles, find the new styles you created. Click on the Details icon, which is this little arrow here. And you'll notice you get the option to Save Collection As. And what this allows you to do is to save these styles on your computer so that next time when you open SketchUp, you can use these styles and apply them to a different model. When you start to apply these styles to a drawing in a real project, you may find the settings are not quite right for the purposes or the nature of the project. That's fine. You can make changes to a style within each model, and those changes will be saved within that model file without overriding the original style. The last thing to do is to apply these styles to the scenes we've created. For the elevations, let's apply the raster scene, and for the plans, let's apply the vector style. Remember to always update your scenes to save the changes. For our sections, let's also apply the vector style. Update. And update. Here's another good tip. Now that we've done all this work creating scenes, styles, and section cuts, why not save a copy of the file you're working on as a template? Simply delete all the project-specific modeling and line work and go to File, Save as Template. If you then go to Preferences, or in Windows, Window Preferences, and under the template settings, you'll be able to select your newly created template. Next time you open SketchUp, all of your scenes and settings will already be in place, making the process a whole lot easier. Okay, now we're ready to start putting this all down on paper. In the next lesson, we'll be opening up layout and putting it all together to create some great looking drawings.